Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a spoiler-filled review for The Joker, one of the most highly anticipated films of the year. It won Best Film, I guess, at Venice Film Festival at this point. It got like a 9.6, 9.5 on rating on IMDb.com even before the release. People were saying that Joaquin Phoenix's performance was Oscar-worthy. It was. But I'm gonna be straight with you. That's pretty much one of the very few redeeming things about this movie. And I felt like I know I've been MIA for 5-6 months, but I've had a lot going on from trying to get the trying and failing to get the Patreon off the ground. Patreon thing off the ground without any success. I've been doing reaction videos, but I haven't put down the time to do for it, just because of between all of the BS with Patreon stuff I have to deal with outside of from work and this life, and just felt like it was kind of dejected. I just feel like I needed to focus on myself. I just felt like I had a lot going on in my life. I need to focus on myself more, and focus on myself and before the channel. But I just came from watching. I went to go see The Joker tonight. So I got off of work early. I saw it a few hours ago. Before I saw this, I even talked to an old friend from high school that says was on her Insta story was saying is she was watching something where she says oh, this is such a great remedy for a trash fire of a film. I asked her what film she was talking about. She was talking about this film, which left me slack-jawed. And so I told her I was gonna check out the movie for myself. And she said that she never watched a movie that made her as mad as this film did. I was I found it a hard pill to swallow. I'm thinking okay, I already bought the ticket in advance. I'm gonna go see it for myself and judge this for myself. I even talked to another friend tonight saying that she wasn't, who had similar opinions about it, and I'm completely on board with it. This film is not well executed or made. And the thing that kept going through my mind was sitting one I even DM'd her before the movie was even over, saying I haven't even finished watching this movie and it's pissing me off just because of what it's done. And the thing that kept running through my mind from the beginning to the end of this film, and the best way I can describe it the best way I can describe this film is thematically confused, or thematically incoherent. Because basically they portrayed this version of the Joker as a guy named Arthur Fleck, who is a mama's boy, is going to therapy. He actually plays an actual clown. He's on the streets, waving all those signs about sales and shit like that. And there was a scene where he got jumped by a bunch of punk ass teenagers who just stole his sign and destroyed it, beat him up with it and stuff like that. And then his boss yelled at him for saying that he stole the sign for some reason. And then when he told one of his coworkers at the agency what happened, that he gave him a gun to use as protection for the next time that happened. But then it's he also used it, went to a children's hospital to entertainment and used it as a prop. It went off in an apartment. He got chastised for using it in a children's hospital, and the person who gave him the gun, I think it was Randolph, basically threw him under the bus and got him fired. Then you have him trying to entertain a little kid on a bus ride home. The mom got mad, and he actually had to hand out a card saying oh, I have this condition because of a head injury where I laugh at inappropriate times. And it seemed like he just seems starts maniacally laughing during what uncomfortable situations, or when he gets anxious, for when he was on that scene was when he was on the subway and he got beat. He was on a subway train. He got beat up, and to when he was trying to stand up, when he was laughing uncontrollably before he even so much to get off any before he can even start his bit. So So basically, I can, it's basically a combination of nature versus nurture that drove Arthur Fleck to becoming the Joker. Even the fact where it's like, and this is the thing I got pissed off and why I was texting my friend about this. This is a spoiler where, his mom Penny was, reaching out to Thomas Wayne for financial help because like said and like claiming that Arthur was the love child of her and Thomas when it turns out she was adopted, and it turns out she had a history. She actually spent some time in Arkham Asylum because she was complicit in the physical abuse that she was like, basically was like abusive towards Arthur, or at least like sanctioned the physical abuse that her boyfriend submitted onto him. Like, they even mentioned that he was like tied to a radiator as a kid at one point. And also like one of the reasons was having to get access to those files from Arkham when Thomas told him was like your mom's off her ass crazy. It kind of like shattered his view of her to the point where it's like he ended up smothering her in the pillow with a pillow when she was like hospitalized for a stroke. Even like the people who were laughing, even the scene you see in the trailers where he was laughing on the subway and the guys like beat him up. They were apparently like Wayne Tech executives, but they were also just being like obnoxious and like was obnoxious about offering a woman a fry and going so far as like throw the fries at her that she had to leave and like move to like another car. And they were making fun of him. They were making fun of him for his laughing out of nervousness or anxiety out of how uncomfortable the situation was, or maybe he just found it genuinely funny because he's so fucked up. He was like fucked up enough in the head to do so. It's kind of ambiguous, but they beat him up, and using the gun that his coworker gave him, he basically shot all three of them. He was initially identified as the killer of three Wayne Tech executives, but he basically went on to a talk show that he was a fan of called Murray Franklin, who was played by Robert De Niro, and he got pissed off at Murray Franklin because of the fact that he aired a clip of his stand-up at a local comedy club where he didn't get a lot of laughs, even though in his imagination, from his point of view, he was getting a lot of laughs, but then when you saw the reality of it, people were barely laughing at his bit, and except for maybe Zazie Beetz, who I never saw her in Atlanta, but I saw her as Domino in Deadpool. I liked her performance. I liked the actress, what her take on the character. And I was looking to see more, what they were going to do with her in this movie because to see what kind of dynamic she was going to have with Arthur, like this version of the Joker, considering they weren't going to make her like a version of like Harley Quinn in any way. See the comparison between those two and the differences between the relationship between this woman and the Joker, and the relationship between Joker and Harley Quinn, as we know in all DC takes. She was just there. I feel like she was wasted in this movie. You could have taken her out of the film, and it's like nothing in the movie changes. Like they had a whole moment where it's like Arthur went to her apartment and started making out with her, and she was inviting her to her stand-up. She was like showed up behind him when they're saying like, oh, this is a clown vigilante that murdered three Wayne Tech executives, and she said, and she says like, oh, whoever did this was a hero. The fact that he came with her to the hospital when Arthur's mom Penny was there, and apparently he imagined a lot of his encounters with Zazie Beetz, especially when he found his way into when he showed up in her apartment. He was creeped out. It's like, you're in the wrong apartment. What the hell's going on? What are you doing here? And she was unnerved by the fact that he was doing the gesture of like putting a gun to his head and pulling the trigger. It seemed like he imagined a lot of his encounters with Zazie Beetz, and except for maybe when she came to see him doing stand up. but that just implies that he was just showing up to. She showed up and was basically laughing at him rather than with him during his stand up, and it almost like had reminded me of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Was it basically like every human being was portrayed as a cartoonish, unsympathetic asshole, except in that movie, except for Caesar, except for J- James Franco, Frida Pinto, and John Lithgow. Everyone else was a cartoonist, like one known asshole. I kind of felt like that was kind of happening here. It's like, and the thing about being thematically confused, where it's like there was a televised interview from Thomas Wayne where he says like he did not sanction the actions of his of the murders of the Wayne Tech execs. But he said he was trying to he didn't want to he didn't want to reach out to the mentally ill. We just didn't see like any effort from him whatsoever about doing so, especially considering you know he had like um basically Arthur going up to Wayne Manor and interacting with Bruce Wayne, and even interacting with a guy who was presumably Alfred and telling him to get off the property. And Thomas Wayne got wind of it, and he was the one who told Arthur that his mom Penny was off his ass crazy. He's like, I'm not your father. You were adopted. I'm not. You're not like the love child of me and Penny, and even goes as far as to like punch him in the nose after the whole altercation. And it's like I try to go into this movie with an open mind, in which apparently having an origin story about the Joker where he falls into like a vat of acid and ace chemicals, and that just drove him to become who he was I can understand that maybe that doesn't exactly stand the test of time. And try to go in with the open mind that a man driven over the edge by environmental factors, being treated like shit. And maybe it could have been like a commentary about just how morally bankrupt people in society can be. But I felt like the execution was poor. And it was just like, it felt like, the Joker killing those three Wayne Tech execs is like, he like galvanized people, and we try to portray him as a sympathetic figure and almost like a messiah for like the 99% versus the 1% who like Thomas Wayne, everybody else were, and the Wayne Tech execs were a part of. But and maybe it was just like a straight up art house flick about a man who was driven over the edge by society, and provided more commentary about the gap between the rich and the poor, the 99% and the 1%ers, and while having absolutely nothing to do with Batman, the Joker, or anything DC related whatsoever, then maybe this movie would have worked a lot more. But it was like the filmmakers were, particularly Todd Phillips, was trying to have their cake and eat it too, and that's what it caused. That's what I legitimately just walked out of the theater having like cognitive dissonance, trying to make heads or tails of this movie, but it mostly just left me just confused and kind of just pissed off. I feel like the movie didn't know which side to make like sympathetic, or like who was in the wrong, who was in the right, and it's like. I mean, he got to the point where it's like Arthur became so off his ass crazy to the point where the guy Randolph, who got him fired, like when he heard like, oh, I heard your mom died, we just came to console you, he like beat the shit out of Randolph in front of like the little person clown that was also the coworker in the department. He let him live and like walk out of there. He even went on the talk show, the Murray Franklin talk show, where somebody booked him for an appearance, but he was wearing the clown makeup you see in the poster next to me. And he straight up admitted saying, like, I killed three Wayne Tech executives. He explained his reason, and like he even went as far as to, like, shoot the talk show host on live television. So that eventually got him arrested. But then, like, an ambulance of followers wearing clown masks, crash was riding an ambulance, crashed a police car, and basically broke him out. And they basically saw him as a savior, treated him as a messiah, and apparently, like, one of his, like, fanatics, like followers of the Joker, they made them responsible for the murder of Thomas and Martha Wayne. I mean, they never said who. They never established whether or not it was Joe Chill. It was just a clown mask who, the thing is, like, he was, like, pissed at him for being part of the one percenters, and it's like shot both Thomas and Martha Wayne dead in front of Bruce. So that was an interesting take, but it just feels like there was no, like, it wasn't even so much that they were trying to portray, like, have like a gray area or make it seem like one side. Like I said, it just feel like it just didn't know whether or not to. Like, 1 minute, like, one side, like the one percenters, like Thomas Wayne and company, felt more sympathetic than what the Joker and all his supporters. But it's like, it's more time trying to make him a messiah, and this is the problem I had with this movie. It just felt like it was trying to make the villains, quote unquote villains, come across as the heroes and vice versa, in a way that it wasn't executed or worked well for me. And it's like, it seemed like the Todd Phillips and the rest of the filmmakers had the same apathy toward the source material that the showrunners on the TV show Gotham had toward the source material. It's like, oh, we're gonna, like, do whatever the hell we want, in deep research, for lack of better terms, and do shit for shock value, and people take the bait, hook, line, and sinker because apparently people are still this day are still running off the low standards set by the Joel Schumacher movies, Batman movies back in the 90s, that I feel that people are being too forgiving of. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say this movie is just as bad as those films, but I feel like but it doesn't mean that it's not I'm not going to say it's a good film either. And it just feels like people have this, like, black and white mentality where it's like, as long as it's not shitty like Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, then automatically good. Like, there's no in between. It's like, maybe, hey, this is not as good, maybe this is not as well executed, and it's like, I guess the problem is that, like I said, it was like a straight up art house piece, non DC related, about the gap between the rich and the poor, and the lack of treatment and the taboo towards the mentally ill, and how that subject is not as black and white. Just make it a straight up art house piece. Don't bring any, like, DC. Don't bring anything DC related into this. That I feel like this movie would have worked out a lot. Maybe this could have been a more thought provoking movie, but instead it just felt like the filmmakers were trying to have their cake and eat it too, in terms of, like, addressing such issues, but also just wanting to do something DC related and write off the popularity of the Batman mythos, because of how iconic it was. That this film did not work for me. Like I said, I'm sure this is probably going to be an incredibly divisive film. I don't understand, like, all the critics who said that it was such a cinematic masterpiece, or any of the Instagram accounts that I've seen where it seemed like they rated it 10 out of 10. I don't know whatever you rated it out of 10, but I just know that this was not a good film. I was unhappy with what I saw. Again, I try to go in with an open mind. I was dissatisfied with it. I would go as far as to say that I was shocked that this film managed to be, I thought, Todd Phillips working on this film, he would kind of redeem himself for the Hangover sequels, and yet he managed to make a film that was much worse than either of them. I'll say it. People are gonna be like, oh, how can you say it? It's like, it's my opinion. I'm standing by it. You don't like it? I don't give a shit. This film sucked. I don't feel like we should go. People should. I feel like we had to make this video just because of how passionately I felt about it after watching it, and also as a public service announcement that we can't just be complacent towards. We shouldn't have the same level of complacency towards certain like comic book films or like comic book films about like iconic supervillains in the same way that we show complacency towards the Michael Bay Transformers movies, which is why they lasted for almost a decade before we actually got some like anything as good as Bumblebee. I feel like I need to like spread the word and make sure do my best effort to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. I'll go as far as to say this is like the worst film I've seen thus far in 2019. And this is coming from a guy who has yet to watch X-Men Dark Phoenix, but at this point I'll be shocked if I find shocked at the idea of finding that film as bad, if not worse, than The Joker. Just from what maybe it will be, I don't know, but I just know it's like this film is. I like I said, I tried to go into this film with an open mind. And I walked out of it just angered at what I saw, and even though like Joaquin did give an Oscar-worthy performance, it didn't was not enough to make up for just what a hot mess this film was. I just found it ironic that it's like they had some like very meta moments in this movie where even his old talk show appearances where he's acting awkward and weird, it was kind of almost kind of reminiscent of how I guess he was going through a rough time between like signs of making this movie where he grew out a beard. He's wearing sunglasses during a David Letterman interview and being really eccentric. And then you saw he was kind of being like, shy and awkward on the Jimmy Kimmel interview promoting this movie. And then for some reason, because Todd Phillips and Jimmy Kimmel are like douchey enough that they aired an outtake where he lost his temper with the cinematographer and was cursing him out. And it just made the whole thing uncomfortable. And it's just like, your idea of promoting a movie is like throwing your lead actor under a bus. Like, this is why I'm so disgusted with Todd Phillips, and to the point where it's like he'd become an incredibly lazy filmmaker over the last decade. And I don't have the same I have the same attitude. Well, he should. I'm sorry. Fuck you, Todd Phillips, because just fuck you. I legitimately feel like he should have the same level of disgust I have towards Adam Sandler to any movie he writes and produces through his production company. Unless it's like a drama film or like it was written and produced by somebody else, or like George Lucas toward the prequels, where it's just like, stop making movies of your own accord. Fucking leave Hollywood. Retire. George Lucas had a good sense to do that. I feel like Todd Helbing should do the same damn thing. Because I'm just really disgusted with how much of a lazy filmmaker he's become over the last decade. This is coming from a guy who was a fan of the first Hangover film, old school. And yet, I mean, I like Due Date enough, but I can understand people hating it because he was basically just like just because I didn't realize I never saw planes, trains, and automobiles, so I didn't realize like it was basically Due Date was basically I didn't realize Due Date was a rehash of that film. Anyway, fuck Todd Phillips. I'm not happy with what he's done. Stop making movies. I'm disgusted. I hate this film. Like, it's the worst film I've seen all year. I don't know what else to say about it. Like I said, the only positive was Joaquin Phoenix' performance as the Joker, but the execution and storytelling was a mess. I don't know why it's being the hype and the praise it's gotten, but it doesn't deserve it. Save your money. Wait till Redbox, if anything, or HBO, Netflix, like whatever. Just don't go pay. Just don't go to pay. I would not go to the theater to pay money to see this. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't like this film, and considering I've been MIA for the last several months, the fact that I was hellbent on putting out this review, uploading it, spreading the word about what my thoughts about this film were, make of it what you will. But I hate this film. I would not recommend this to anybody. like I said, like I said, like how did you feel about it? Apparently, it's going to be like a divisive film. I'm willing to bet. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. And I've been doing reaction videos to the Titans. I mean to edit and upload them to YouTube and hopefully to Patreon down the line. So, like I said, stay tuned. And I'll